Over the weekend, there was a story that really became the overarching story for all of us. And I mentioned earlier, the joy that I have as a sports fan, rooting for the teams that I root for, really was washed away by the impact of what happened. And I thought about it first and foremost in an everyday terms. You look at what you might be doing on a Saturday, as most of us would. There are certain chores, and if you work the normal Monday through Friday week, you have Saturday to do some of those chores. And those chores could be going to the post office, going to the bank, perhaps. If you need dry cleaning, going to the dry cleaners or laundry. If you do laundry at home, you can do it at home. I remember being single, not having laundry equipment. I had to go out to a laundromat to do that. That was a Saturday task I had to do. It took all day when you try to access machines and so forth. You might have some work to do on your car. You might cut your lawn. You might do a few things. One of the things that's been a staple on the weekend is to go grocery shopping. It's one of those many tasks that you sort of have a mindless check off, and you have your list and you go grocery shopping. And a couple of days ago, in the Jefferson block area of Buffalo, a number of people did just exactly that. They went grocery shopping. Geraldine Talley, age 62, went grocery shopping. And so did Celestine Cheney, 65 years old, devoted grandmother. Haywood Patterson, a 67-year-old dedicated churchgoer who would drive people to and from the supermarket. Andre McNeil, 53 years old. Margus Morrison, 52 years old. Roberta Drury, 32 years old, who had moved to Buffalo to be with her brother, who had a bone marrow transplant. Catherine Massey, 72 years old, a community activist. Pearl Young, 77 years old, who dedicated her Saturdays to working in a soup kitchen. Ruth Whitfield, 86 years old, who had just been to visit her husband in a care home. On that day, they were shopping. They went to the local supermarket in their neighborhood. It's a Top supermarket. That's not a chain we see here in Westchester County. We have other chains here. I happen to have a residence in upstate New York that we will get away to every so often, and they happen to have a Tops supermarket in that community. They're prominent in parts of upstate New York. And I happen to have in my wallet, you do too, no doubt, cards that represent places you go. I have a Speedway gas card because I gas up at Speedway. CVS card because I'll find myself at CVS every so often. And I have a Tops grocery card for when I'm in that section of the state and I go to local Tops. So except for the fact it was a different part of the state, Warrensburg, not Buffalo, I might too be at a Tops supermarket on a Saturday with those individuals grocery shopping, doing whatever it is that you do to pick up food and vital material for your family. On that day, they picked the wrong day to go to Tops supermarket. They picked the wrong day, not because of anything they did that was wrong. It just so happens that fate picked that day to send a young man by the name of Peyton Gendron to that particular Tops supermarket. Peyton Gendron, as far as we understand, is an 18-year-old boy who lives in Conklin, New York. And if you want to know your geography of New York State, Conklin is a suburb of Binghamton. Those of us who live in this area think that all of upstate New York is within 5 miles of each other. Conklin and Binghamton is about midway between New York and Buffalo, so it's about 200 miles from there to here, a little less, and about 200 some odd miles from there to Buffalo, slightly more. And I'm sure you have, I know I have, driven 200 miles, 300 miles for any number of different reasons. It's a healthy drive, 3 hours, 3.5-hour drive. What you think about on a 3.5-hour drive could be literally anything. I play the radio. If there is a sporting event on the radio, I will turn the radio on. I have my Bluetooth, and I will no doubt bother Ken Jenkins on the phone or bother Joan McDonald or maybe Lisa Reyes or somebody on the team to talk about things while I'm going through a long drive. And Peyton Gendron, 18 years old, borrowed his father's car to take a drive. And the drive took him 200 miles. That's a long trip. And over that long trip, he thought about what he wanted to do with great intensity. And if you've ever been on that part of the state, it's pretty flat, it's pretty wide open. You go west out of Conklin, out of Binghamton, you go through Owego, Elmira, you go through Horseheads, name of a community. You find your way going through Corning and up to Bath. And then if you're heading to Buffalo, you usually take Bath, you go north on an interstate to just south of Rochester and Henrietta, and you continue west. It's a long drive. It's a lot of time to think. And what Peyton Gendron thought about was how he was going to kill people that he did not know. Those people turned out to be Pearl Young, Catherine Massey, Ruth Whitfield, Andrew McNeil, Celestine Cheney, Hayward Patterson, people that he did not know personally. Their crime, in the mind of Peyton Gendron, is that they were black, or African American. And they lived in a zip code which has a concentration of African American population in the city of Buffalo, 200 miles from where he lived. You might ask, was this young man ever denied a job that was given to somebody else which stoked his anger? He was a paper boy and worked in a deli. He hadn't been cheated out of some job that he thought perhaps somebody took from him. Did he not get a seat in a college that he was somehow denied of that would stoke this anger? No. His anger was stoked by what he read on the internet. Now, the internet is free speech. The internet will provide you whatever type of information you want. If you want to read about the New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's there on the internet. You can read it. If you want to read about how to fix your car, you can get information on the internet about that. And if you want to learn about how to modify an AR-15 weapon, you can find that on the internet too. There's a lot of things on the internet, and we prize ourselves in America believing in free speech. And with free speech, people can say what they want. They can express their opinions and their ideas. It's free. It's free. And on the internet, social media, more so than ever in the history of America. Free speech used to be you could stand up at a public meeting and say your piece, or you could stand on a street corner and say your piece, but now you can, by email, by Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of these different platforms, you can go off and say whatever you like. And here's the thing about free speech. It doesn't have to be true. It just has to be what you want to say. And it has to be whatever you want to read and whatever you want to expose yourself to. And you can expose yourself to great literature. You can expose yourself to art. You can expose yourself to any ideas that are out there. And some of those ideas that are out there are ideas of hatred. How you, at the tender age of 18, can formulate a plan to murder people 200 miles away from where you live because you believe that there is a theory of how a 67-year-old, a 72-year-old, a 77-year-old, and an 86-year-old shopper in a supermarket plans to replace you and your race. The Great Replacement Theory. There's been a lot of theories that have been offered under the guise of America. Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, great men, flawed men. All of us are, certainly they were, but they wrote and put in the public domain, now on the internet. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with basic inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That too is a theory. We have had men and women in this country who have stood up and expressed their point of view about what America is. During the closeout of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, in his great second inaugural address, at a time when brother was fighting brother and near the end of a bloody war that claimed 700,000 American lives on both sides of the Great Divide, with malice toward none, with charity toward all. At a time of war and hatred, brother to brother, malice toward none, charity toward all. That too is a manifesto. We have to ask ourselves, what is it that we expect this country to be? Do we want it to be a country where an 18-year-old Peyton Gendron can read things on the internet that are patently untrue and act on it, have access to a weapon legally bought, travel into another person's hometown, walk into a grocery store, shoot and kill people in a parking lot, shoot and kill a retired Buffalo police officer who was serving as a security guard, That security guard returned fire, but he was already wearing body armor. He knew what he was there to do, and he had plans to continue on beyond that to a second location. This isn't the first time a tragedy has happened. Adam Lanza in Newtown, Connecticut, walked into an elementary school and he shot 5-year-old children. Whatever his perceived reasons were, there are no reasons that could possibly serve any defense. We will talk about this and express our pain for the people that died, and we should, and we must. I talk about even one COVID death being a tragedy. And when you have multiple deaths, it's a magnitude tragedy. But it's a tragedy if a building collapses. It's a purposeful murder if you drive 200 miles with a semi-automatic weapon, perhaps modified to be an automatic weapon, so that you can kill people who are shopping in a Tops supermarket. I would love to be happy today. I'd love to tell you that the fiscal strength of this county is better today than it was 5 years ago, and it is. I would love to tell you that my team is going on to the second round. But I can't tell you those things as if those things matter more than the hatred of an 18-year-old boy. Based on what? What made you get in that car and drive 3.5 hours, every one of those miles, thinking about what you would do when you arrived on North Jefferson Street in Buffalo? America is interpreted by all of us who are Americans. I have lived not quite 70 years, and there was a lot of America before I was born, and there'll be a lot more America when I'm gone. But this is an experiment. It's an experiment where freedom is granted all of us because the Founding Fathers believed that it was a natural right from our Creator, not given by the state, not given by the county executive, governor, president. It's a natural right that you have to be free. If the color of your skin is black, if the color of your skin is brown, you've been given a natural right by your Creator. And we believe that you have the right to life and to liberty and to the pursuit of happiness, and the pursuit of happiness in a way that doesn't infringe upon other people's life and liberty in pursuit of happiness. As a crime story, he has been captured. He will face prosecution, and if found guilty, he will face punishment. Nothing brings back Pearl Young, 77 years old. Nothing brings back Ruth Whitfield, 86 years old. Nothing brings back those little children that died that day in Sandy Hook. That's an open wound that never heals. It never heals. It never will heal for those people. They had to tear the school down because just the sight of the school and the location of what happened that day could not stand as a remembrance for people. We are about running a county government, but we are also about believing that we can govern ourselves, that we somehow can shape the better angels to be more dominant than those demons and devils that do drive individuals. And since none of us are perfect, we're all flawed, we all do things at various degrees that are not right, not proper. And if we are faith, we understand what those things are. We come to a moment of clarity, and we're penitent, and we ask for forgiveness, and we try to be better. And we certainly, if we have a 3.5-hour drive, we think very carefully about what we're about to do. This country is a great country. It's the best country on earth, and if this country were to fall to malevolent forces, this world would be in grave trouble. We are the great shining light in this world. We've been given that opportunity, and we've been given that responsibility. And that responsibility comes with it, an introspection, and then an action that comes out of that introspection. What do we do to try to stop the patent gendrons of the future? Because right now they're out there reading the internet, and the internet we'll put out there the works of Shakespeare and the works of white supremacists, or for that matter, hatred of any sort. Hatred against Asian Americans, hatred against any religion, anti-Semitism, anti-Catholicism, any hatred that's out there, and the free speech is there. How do we find the better angels if we want this country to survive in the years to come? And there are players in this world that would very much like us not to survive. They would very much like for us to tear ourselves apart. They would very much like for us to have what I'm told is called a boogaloo war between people who hold extreme views on the right and people who have views on the left, and they have it out. And the end result would be a long, dark night for all of us. So we pray for those we've lost. We hope that whatever our theology teaches us, that they are at peace, that the final act of their life is not the definition of their life, that they were good and loving people, and that the good that they've done lives on after them. We hope that whatever amounts to justice will be done on the assumption of guilt, prove it, that this young man will have many years to contemplate the evil that he's done, and that we will find the right combination of law enforcement, moral teaching, education, mental health services that will try to prevent this from happening again. But it was only a month ago that a fellow named Frank James started out in Milwaukee, went to Philadelphia, and drove a van into Brooklyn, went into a subway station on a subway car, dressed in military fatigues, put out a bomb to confuse the vision of people in the subway car, and then started shooting in the car. By the grace of the Almighty, didn't someone not die that day, and not a lot of people die that day. We don't realize just how lucky we were that day. But we have to determine what kind of an America we are and what kind of an America we're going to tolerate, and how much longer we're going to cuddle and coddle people whose basic philosophy is hatred, people whose basic philosophy is kill them because they don't deserve to live. Wasn't that what Adolf Hitler's message was all about? Get rid of the inferior people in the world. Get rid of the people that threaten you when in fact they don't threaten you. Defenseless people put in boxcars. Wasn't that what pogroms were about? Wasn't that what slavery was about, to enslave a group of people so you benefited from it? I'm very proud that our finances are good. I'm very proud that in Westchester County our crime is down. I'm very proud that we have fixed capital projects, Playland and other places to improve. But I'm not very happy today knowing that Peyton Gendron could get into a car, borrow his father's car, and drive 250 miles and kill people who were grocery shopping in Buffalo. I'm not very happy with that at all, and you shouldn't be very happy with it either. I'm George Latimer. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more information as the week continues. Be safe.